Each time a student athlete steps onto a playing field, parents feel a twinge of anxiety, because with any sport there is the risk of injury. Nick Delande and his father Bill realized this nightmare in September 2015 when Nick suffered a serious injury during a high school soccer game.
On September 28th, we were playing Hull. It was my 5th game, I believe, and it was 10 minutes into the game, and I had the ball in my hands, and a kid was in a sprint, and he hit me with a knee right in the jaw. So it broke on both sides. It was a biangular fracture on both sides, and along with that was a severe concussion that lasted 5 months that I just got cleared 2 days ago.
Concussion is the most common neurological injury in sport. It accounts for about 15% of all high school sport-related injuries and 90% of all high school head injuries. The CDC estimates close to 4 million concussions a year. I make sure that everybody that I meet with hears me say that concussions are a form of brain injury. For too long we talked about, I got a ding, I got my bell rung, and those descriptive terms really don't mean anything to anybody. And I think downplay the significance of what the concussion is.
According to Judelson, a concussion is a functional impairment of how the brain works. Symptoms vary from person to person, but might include physical, cognitive, sleep-related, and emotional problems. For Nick Delande, certain side effects were immediate.
I was very dizzy. At first I didn't really know where I was, but I knew I had a concussion because I had one a couple months prior, but this one was a lot worse. And I called my parents crying, and the first concussion I didn't cry at all. This one was just really, really emotional. On the bus ride home, I got really tired and I cried at least 10 times for 2 minutes, and then realized I was just wondering why I was crying, and then I'd stop. But then all of a sudden I cried again. It kept going on for at least an hour until I got to where I was to meet up with my dad, and this one was a lot worse than the one I had prior.
Unfortunately, along with the concussion, Nick suffered a broken jaw.
I knew it was broken right away. Right when I could hear the cracks, I knew it broke right away. And I told my teammates, and I just broke my jaw. And they didn't believe me, obviously. They thought I was being a wuss. They thought I could just get right back on the field. And when I bit down, my teeth were on the other side of my face. And so the bottom half of my teeth were on the inside of my top half.
According to Nick, the athletic director at Hull initially believed that Nick had suffered a muscle strain.
But I knew it was 10 times worse. I knew I broke my jaw. I just didn't know how severe it was. I didn't know what it took. And then I found out I had to get my mouth wired shut, and that's when it hit me that I was screwed.
When Nick's father met his son at the bus after the game, he knew his son was not okay.
He could hardly talk right. He was very, very emotional, which is very unlike him. He wasn't walking straight. He could barely stand up. I mean, he was a mess. So right off the bat, I said, go into the emergency room. Here we come. I knew it was going to be a long night.
Not long after the injury, Nick tried returning to school, but struggled.
I got a headache within the first 10 minutes, and then I just got really tired. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything. My vision was really blurred. My vision was what was affected the most from this. And so my eyes wouldn't converge. My left eye was a lot slower than my right, and so my eyes just weren't working together. And so that's what made everything so much harder. Looking up and down, looking across the room, looking everywhere, I give you a headache right away. And that's when I knew I had to go home.
The wire's taken off at 4 weeks, and he was still having real bad headaches. Anytime he tried to look down and read, do any kind of work, it would just set him off, and he would have to go lay down. So it was tough.
And Nick had a lot of difficulty with a lot of different things. In particular, when we looked at how Nick's eyes would focus on an object far away as it moved closer to him, or if Nick was scanning, looking at you and then looking this way, whether he held his head still or whether he moved his head, all of those things disrupted him. So that made me concerned about vision, vestibular problems, contributing to his headaches.
Dr. Judelson prescribed medication to help Nick sleep, along with physical therapy to help him regain his balance and to help his vision problems and headaches. A neuro-optometrist provided him with special glasses while his eyes recovered, but the symptoms didn't disappear immediately, and he had to withdraw from school in the midst of his senior year.
I unfortunately got told a few weeks ago that I'm unable to graduate, and so I have to repeat my senior year.
Bill said the news was difficult to process.
I knew it was going to be really, really difficult if he wasn't going to be able to play sports again. I had talked to the guidance counselor, and we're going to talk going through the athletic director, and we're pretty sure that we'll be able to get him to be able to play next year for medical reasons, that they'll give him a 5th year of eligibility due to medical reasons. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. I'm really hoping it does, for his sake. Because, I mean, the senior year is supposed to be the best year of, I mean, really, was the best year of my life. I mean, senior year is great. The best year is awesome. Especially when you play sports, the captain of the soccer team, and he didn't really get to enjoy any of it. That was the hardest part, was my wife and I sitting on the sidelines and seeing him have to sit there. That sucked. That sucked, because we knew how much he wanted to be out there.
Nick is hopeful that he will be able to return to the soccer field and basketball court next year.
I kind of look at it as a blessing because I get to play my sports again. I got to play the sport that I love, that I only got to play for 4 games. I was a captain this year, and I didn't get to be the captain that I wanted to be. Sitting sideline with my mouth wired shut, I wasn't able to communicate with my teammates like I would want to. And so I kind of look at it as I take a break now, I get to work, I get to hang out with my friends, and then next year I come back better than ever and repeat my senior year.
Nick worries that people won't understand why he has to repeat his senior year.
People are going to look at me like I'm the 5th year senior, and I don't want to be looked at like that, like at all. But I think people need to realize that I can't go to school because of my concussion, and I'm coming back next year because of my concussion. And it's not something I want to do, it's not something anyone wants to do. And so I think they just need to realize that I'm here for a reason, and then should be accepted like everyone else.
Dr. Judelson said that even though concussions are invisible injuries, they need to be taken seriously.
You just need to continue to educate people and validate that this child isn't behaving like themselves because they're not feeling like themselves.
Dr. Judelson hopes that Nick considers using protective gear when he's back on the field.
I've had conversations with Nick and several other soccer players. I don't know why you wouldn't put on some of the protective headgear that they now make for soccer. I think Nick's a little anti that because the one for goalies is more like an older leather-style football cap. But many of the other ones are just a band. And again, they're not concussion-proof, but they may provide a little bit more of protection and a little bit of force dissipation, so whatever that blow to your head is, it hurts less. There's less energy transmitted to your skull, to your brain, and maybe that makes the difference between having symptoms and not.
Nick admits that his experience has changed his life. It certainly changed his feelings about concussions.
I kind of looked at it like I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think concussions were a big deal. I thought you just get headaches and they'll just go away. But after this one, I look at it totally differently. I take concussions seriously, and everyone else should. It's not something to be played with.
Nearly 7 months after his injury, Nick is mostly symptom-free. He hopes that by sharing his story, he will make people more aware about the seriousness of concussive injuries. Reporting for the Cape Cod Chronicle, I'm Kat Szmit.